My request to Ms. Geetika from Tattvam Advisor. The topic will be provisional attachment of property or bank account, when, why, and recourse available, rights and responsibility of parties during such proceeding. Geetika ma'am, please.
Welcome to all of you. Very good afternoon to all the participants and the co-panelists. Without taking much of your time, because I think we are heading towards the lunch and everybody would be feeling hungry. So I'll not take much of your time. I'll straight away come to the topic. Today we are going to discuss about the provisional attachment under GST. Now, if we see that, why is it not working? So if you see, what is this concept of provisional attachment and why this has been given to the tax authorities? We have been talking a lot about from the taxpayer's perspective. Let us also understand why certain provisions and certain powers have been given to the tax authorities or the tax officers. One of the powers, apart from what we have gone, we have seen, there are powers to search, investigate, arrest, etc. One of this power has been given with respect to provisional attachment. If we think without any bias, the concept is very clear. The officers or the tax makers, they want to protect the interest of the revenue. And of course, in those cases where there are chances that the person who's going to be adjudicated or against whom any demand is to be made, there could be situations that the recovery cannot be made or the person may not come up and pay the taxes. So if you see the term, the word that it suggests, it's a provisional attachment. It's a temporary attachment of your property. It could be your bank account, it could be your immutable property, movable property, anything which the tax officers want to attach, just in order to protect the interest of the revenue. Nothing else. They don't want to, make any benefit out of that property. Only to the extent, or maybe to the aspect that there is, a demand that could be initiated against the taxpayers, and either the taxpayer won't pay it or will not be able to pay it for whatever reason, they do this kind of an attachment. Yes, we have been of late seeing that there are so many attachment orders, and we have seen a lot of judgments also coming to the effect, some in favor of assessee, some may not be in favor of assessee. So I'll not get into all those details. We'll just first of all see what are the basic fundamentals of this provision. Section 83 lays down the provision relating to provisional attachment. What it talks about is that whether after the initiation of any proceeding under chapter 12, 14, and 15. Just to highlight, 1 year ago, this law has been amended. Earlier, there were very specific 4, 5, 6 sections against which, if there is any proceeding which was pending, then only the provisional attachment provision could be invoked. But then this, what was happening is that there were various cases where the proceedings got completed, then also the properties were being attached, or there were situations where the methodologies were not adopted properly, and then also the properties were be attached, or the demand was not such high of such a quantum, but the entire bank account is being attached. So there were several cases, and the court started giving favorable judgments in the favor of assessee, saying that one, in case if the proceeding which was initiated and which was completed, it no more qualifies as pending proceeding. Then there were situations where, very restricted areas where this could be initiated, not in the case of a summon, like if anyone is going for a section 70 summon, they cannot attach the property. Of course, the tax authorities also had their point of view. They went up to the council in the 40th council meeting. This was postponed that the way the government, the High Court is giving the judgments, this is going to be detrimental for the tax officers, the tax authorities. In this case, there could be situation where, a particular proceeding has been completed and it doesn't remain pending. And if the next level of proceeding has not been initiated, we won't be having the powers to attach the property, and where the only interest is to protect the revenue for the government. That's where these changes were brought in. I will not get into each and every change, but the major change which was made was changed from the pendency of proceeding to initiation of proceeding. And the coverage was expanded for those limited 4-5 sections to various sections falling under chapter 12, 14, and chapter 15, giving wide powers to the tax authority. No more arguments left that, the proceeding has been completed. There was a case of Gujarat High Court where the search was completed, and therefore the court held that there is no pendency of proceeding. How can you even do the attachment? Now the word has changed from proceedings, from pendency to initiation. Doesn't talk about completion, non-completion. Once any proceeding has been initiated, wide powers given to the officers to attach the property. Then when can it be done? There should be the opinion of the commissioner. Of course, we'll just deliberate on this little bit further. Then protecting the interest. And if you see the fourth point, sorry, not the fourth, the fifth one, where earlier the provision was that only the property of the person who's being who's a taxable person against whom any demand has to be created, only that property could be attached. Now the powers have been extended to even attach property of some third persons specifically covered under 122(1). We'll look into what will be the category of people who will fall under this particular section. So yes, the powers have been expanded. The restrictions which were laid down under the earlier provision and the judgments which were given by the high courts on the cases where the provisional attachment was being quashed. Now we'll have to be very careful to see that what all are the areas where this provisional attachment can now be done. A quick glimpse on the provisions falling under chapter 12. All your assessment related provisions, self-assessments, starting from self-assessment till the summary assessment, best judgment, everything is there. Then all your inspection, search, and all these seizure sections, the arrest section, all this is being covered at any point of time. Earlier, let's say, like I mentioned, at the time of section 17, there was no provision in the previous section, the unamended section, to do any provisional attachment of the property. Now the government has given them this power that even in these cases, the provisional attachment can be done. And then the last part of it, then even in the case of demand and recovery. So from chapter 12 till 15, in these section, wherever any kind of a proceeding is being initiated by the department, the government, the tax officers, they have the power to collect to attach the property of any taxpayer, and of course to protect the interest, so that they ensure that at any point of time there is no loss of revenue to the government. The second aspect, which is very important and has always been dealt with by the courts at various instances, that such attachments or such steps should be taken by the officers only once the commissioner has made an opinion about it. It should not be based on any by a word of mouth, or anyone who has just given a complaint against you and straight away commissioner going and attaching the property. These can be the leading evidences or leads basis which they can do their own internal inspections and their own internal research. But there has to be an opinion which should be formed by the commissioner, and this opinion has to be given in the file. It is not that he felt like that because there was something fishy and he attached the property. He needs to make that file. Yes, of course, these matters don't come up at very initial stages. They do come up when anyone is going and approaching the courts after challenging these proceedings. At that point of time, definitely the court will also ask that what was the basis of making this opinion. So at their level, the officers have to do all this work. And trust me, nowadays even the tax authorities have got educated. They know their rights and duties. They know wherever they are going wrong. They also read the judgments. They also know. I cannot comment on a very small segment of people, but yes, they do their paperwork very well. You cannot go and say that you didn't do this, therefore it is, he said that you don't know. I have my copy. I will not show it to you. We'll come to that, whether this is allowed or not, whether the commissioner needs to show the opinion to the taxpayers or not. But yes, they are being educated. They are also learning day by day. So definitely, if something is coming up, there is some intelligence, there is some work that has gone behind it. And therefore, this has to be taken care of, that if the officers are doing all these activities, they have powers to do it. And we should also know that they don't exceed those powers. That is one thing which is very important at our level as well. Like I've already discussed, there are rulings which clearly say that the opinions should be not hearsay. They should be based on some concrete evidence. They should have done their internal working. It should not be like, someone has just complained, or just because they feel like, or they read some news material about some person and they start taking such actions. Officers also have to be answered. They are also answerable to their seniors, as well as, if the matter travels to the courts, they also have to give all the reasons why they took such a extreme step. Because a provisional attachment is not the only way of recovering the taxes. You can always, issue the notices. You can also do the adjudication, and if there is a wrong payment or a short payment, the taxpayer can pay. So these are supposed to be taken up as a very extreme steps. Yes, we have seen that why these powers have been given, because they want to protect the interest of the revenue, but only to the extent you are protecting the interest of the revenue. Like in one of the cases, the demand was of 2.4 crore, but the entire bank account was, attached. So the High Court, they held that why was the need to attach the entire bank account when your demand is only up to a particular level? Apply some mind, attach only to that account, to that amount for which you feel like that if the person doesn't pay, then we will use this money. So there are various instances where the courts have given judgments in the favor of officers also. They have given judgments in the favor of assessees also. This has to be seen on facts to fact basis. Wherever there is a situation that the person is evading tax and all, yes, of course, we don't expect any, liberty being given to such taxpayers. But anyone who is a bona fide taxpayer can always take the benefit of these situations. There are internal guidelines in 2021 which have been issued for the officers. Very unfortunate for us that there are various guidelines which keeps on, they are being issued at various instances for various provisions, but officers, they sometimes tend to, bypass those guidelines and try to do something which is beyond the power of the law, unnecessary creating a situation for a taxpayer to go to the courts. But yes, this kind of a guideline has been given that they should not use this as a routine matter. This should be used sparingly, only in extreme cases where they feel that, the person will not be able to pay the taxes, or he'll abscond, or he'll not be able to, discharge his liabilities. Now, there is one portion which is always discussed, that whenever the commissioner is making any such opinion, whether an SSC has a right to know what was the basis of giving this opinion, because when a provisional attachment order is given, it is given on your portal and you are supposed to reply it towards it within 7 days. Otherwise, the property or the whatever bank, etc., can be attached. So recently, in the case of Gujarat High Court, in case of originating trading private limited, the courts held that unless until you tell them what is the reason basis which you have attached the property, how will be the taxpayer able to give a suitable reply? He doesn't know what is the basis. Because there could be a situation, there is a bona fide taxpayer and he doesn't know, some error would have happened. But unless until he knows that there is a particular situation or a reason because of which the property has been attached, he won't be able to give a suitable reply. So under this, in this case, the court have given the direction to the officers to provide the copy of the opinion or the reasons basis which this attachment order has been issued. But interesting to see whether all officers are going to follow it, because definitely the judgment is binding on the officer against whom this proceeding was taken. Whether this is going to be followed by all the officers, because this is nowhere hard coded in the law or in the guidelines. So let's see if these guidelines or some more instructions are given to the officer, that in case a taxpayer comes and asks you, I want to know the reason that why you have attached this property, you should provide a copy to it, because neither there is restriction under the law, nor there is any specific provision of providing such things mandatorily by the officers. These are very common cases. We know these are actually very, tricky or maybe critical cases where the officers or the tax authorities really want to have their hold on the taxpayers. Moving of goods without invoices, giving invoices without. So typically the fake invoices cases, they want to keep a control on these situations. Now, when we saw the provisions of Section 83, like I mentioned that earlier, this provision was applicable only with respect to the property of the person against whom the demand has to be made. So there were orders issued against third parties, and yes, the relief was given by various high courts that this law nowhere allows you to attach the property of any third person, any vendor or any business partner of this person against whom you have created demand. Now, very specifically, these four categories have been brought in to allow the officers to attach their property also. Again, the first three clearly talks about the fake supply cases, issuing invoices without supplying without invoices, giving ITC and distributing ITC without the provisions of the following the provisions of the law. So if anyone is party to these transactions, even if he is not the person against whom the demand or the recovery is to be made, this third person's property can also be attached. And this is the far reaching power again that has been given to the authorities. Yes, of course, with all the good intentions to ensure that, the tax evaders, they don't run away, and the people who are abetting such crime should also be punished accordingly. Hence, this kind of a power has been given. So two major changes which we saw have happened over last 1 year. One, the powers have been provided in various other proceedings except for those specific situations. And secondly, this power can be exercised on third person also, even if that person is not the taxpayer against whom the demand or the recovery has to be made. To summarize, based on all the high court judgments and all the guidelines and instructions that have been issued by the department, these are very drastic powers and have to be used by the officers sparingly, not as a routine matter. They should not be used as a tool to harass any taxpayer. If a taxpayer is ready to adjudicate a matter or is ready to take a show cause notice, then the officer should not straight away start attaching the property. In cases of revenue neutral situations, like, you RCM, you can pay and take the credit. It's a revenue neutral situation. There is no need to attach a property because the cash goes from one pocket and the credit is taken in the other pocket. So these are some summarizations of the various court rulings and the guidelines instructions that have been given, that only and only in cases where there is a reasonable apprehension that the taxpayer will not pay, he will run away, or he will not be in a position to discharge his liability, it is only at that point of time the officers should use these powers and not as a routine matter. The procedure is very simple. This is an order which is issued by the commissioner and is given on the portal. There is a slight change which has happened in this particular provision also. Earlier, this order provisional attachment was given only to the people who were dealing with the property. Say, for example, the bank or the revenue authorities who are dealing with your immutable property, etc. Now, this order will also be communicated to the taxpayer. They will also get to know that there is a provisional attachment that is being happening against them. Consequences, we know we'll not be able to use the accounts and the books and the goods which are being seized and all. So, of course, we'll have to be very careful that in any such situation, we may be, the right steps have to be taken by the taxpayers. You need to provide your reply within 7 days time. If you don't get a favorable order, the only relief that is available with you is to go to the High Court, because there is no provision which allows you to go into appeal against the provisional attachment order. Now, moving on to the second segment, around the search proceedings. You must be wondering that we have already had one session of search proceeding. Why again the other session? In the previous sessions, what we have seen is what is given in the books, the code of law. Here we will try to touch upon, based on our experiences and our learnings, that what is it that is not there in the books of law. You all know that search proceeding has to be done by an authorized officer. But when someone comes, we barely, see that whether the person has an authorization letter or not. First thing that has to be seen that you need to see. Of course, you need not be harsh with the tax officers, but you can always ask that I want to see the authorization letter based on which you are coming and doing the search proceeding. Because there have been instances when people have come without the correct powers and without having the correct authorization. So there and then you can be out of that situation. Also, it gives an idea to the tax officer that the taxpayers are learned people. I cannot just, arm twist them or, take an advantage of my position and try to suppress them. Second thing is, when they come with the name of the entity and the premise which is to be searched. Premises is fine, of course. When they are coming, no one will take a chance that they will have an address of a different premise and start searching a different premise. this much mind even we will apply and they will also apply. Where the twist happens is that in a particular premise, there are multiple legal entities which are operating, sister concerns, or maybe some third parties also operating. We have given an area space. They come with the order of the entire building. And in that building, we are having multiple floors. One sister concern is there, some third party is operating from there. So at that point of time, we forget to see that against whom the order has come. We just start, whatever they start asking, we start giving them every information, etc. Okay, they will ask you who all are operating from this premises, it's your own premises, rented premises, etc., etc. So you'll have to be very careful with it. Whenever they are coming with the order, search order, you should restrict your conversation with them only with respect to the entity which they are, they have come to search. They may get into some extra conversations to know, okay, only you are operating, someone else is also operating. You can also bypass those questions and say, yes, we have given it on rent and it's some third party, not our business. It's some third party business. Or even it's a sister concern. If we ask, we can avoid it. But of course, at one point of time, it becomes very pressing that if the officer starts saying, you can always say that this particular entity is not covered under the search order. So therefore, there is no requirement. However, if things get a little bit out of hand, you can just give very basic information. Not all details need to be given. Legally, that is also not allowed. But just to ensure that you don't get into a very ugly situation with these officers, we know when they come with all the airs in the mind that, we are the tax officers and we have come with the search proceedings and I'll take this much tax. So yes, to respect their job and also to work within the four corners of the law, we have to be careful. Reasons to believe and all this is we have seen. Many times people, they ask us whether, there are CCTV cameras, can they, are they allowed to switch it off and all. Normally, they are not supposed to do this, but if they do it, then you can get a sense of it that they are coming with what mindset they are coming in, and then you need to be a little docile with them and how you have to deal with them. Getting aggressive with these officers can land you in a troublesome situation. All the information that they ask, please provide them. Don't try to hide information. Don't try to give wrong information. Anything that they collect from over here will form part of their notices or the proceedings that they're going to initiate against you. You don't know anything, keep silent. We have seen in the earlier sessions that we have, right to be silent. If you don't know, say that I don't know. I'm not the right person, or the right person is not available, or whatever be the answer. Don't give wrong answers. Sometimes people under the stress, they tend to give wrong answer, or just to avoid a subsequent question, they give an answer and then it culminates into a different level of inquiry which goes. So don't tell anything which is not factually correct. Like in the morning, Vivek sir was also saying that, even the consultants come with the wrong facts. Even we vouch and we, always say that always be correct on your facts. Let the law decide, let the provision of law decide whether the factual situation is in your favor or not. Don't twist the fact. This will always land you in trouble. Constant threat of arrest is there. Agreed, totally agreed, because they have come for some recovery and they are like, abhi to main aaya hu to kuch to leke jaunga. This is how the officers come, even in the audits, forget about the search proceedings. So therefore, this is something which you should not get, scared of. If there is an arrest provision which is being, they are trying to threat you for the arrest and all, you can always say that we are here to cooperate with you. There is no reason for, invoking these arrest provision. Give them the information and then you say that, sir, whatever proceedings you want to do, you do it. You want to issue a show cause notice, we'll be ready to adjudicate. Wherever there is a, any error that has happened at the company's end, we are bona fide taxpayers. Clerical errors are bound to happen. Sometimes there are miss of some situations or issues which we have not, taken cognizance of, and we have missed on tax. You are ready to pay, you pay. You are not ready to pay. Arrest cannot be the arm twister for asking you to pay the taxes. So this is some right which the taxpayer should know that they get little fidgety about. Forget about the search proceedings. Recently, I was handling a matter of a GST audit. There we went for a client's place. It was an interpretation issue about the export of service, whether it will qualify as an intermediary or not. The client has taken opinion from big law firms, big fours. Then also the officer is kind of threatening them, asking us as a consultant to stay out and trying to manipulate the client. Madam, ये लोग तो आपको बोलेंगे कि ताकि इनका litigation आता रहेगा, तो आप इनकी बातों में मत आओ, आपको पता है ना अरेस्ट का प्रोविजन है, 5 करोड़ से ऊपर का पेनल्टी है, वी कैन अरेस्ट यू. The client came out and they said they are saying that all these things. I said this is only a way to manipulate you, just to threat you that you pay up the taxes. Next time whenever you're going in, say that this is a call that the company has taken. Consultant has nothing to do it. Consultant is only here to help us. And we are also, whenever we are going, we are only talking in terms of law. We will never ask a taxpayer or a assessee to get in a situation where we clearly know it's a weak case for them. They have taken opinions. It's a position that the company has taken. Where is the provision of initiating any arrest or any malified intention? So these are things where, of course, if someone has done anything wrong, we won't vouch for that. But anyone who has such issues, interpretation issues are there, some errors are there. So this cannot be a reason for, arresting any person. And the last one, whenever you have, they have done the search and all, try to obtain the copy of Panchnama. We have seen practically they don't give it, but if possible, maybe directly, indirectly, try and get the copy of Panchnama so that you would get to know that what all has been recorded and what all has been seized during the search procedure. Any statements made by mistake during the summon or during the, the heat of the discussion, you have the right to retract those statements. This is a fundamental right that you can always go back and write an email or a letter to the officer saying that so and so statement should be read like this. Yes, I know some of you might be having doubt that kisko yaad rehta hai yaar us time pe kya bola. That's why we are having this session, that whenever you fall in this situation, keep in mind whatever is being, asked for, whatever you are writing, whatever answers you are giving. Even if they don't give you the copy of Panchnama or your statement, immediately go back and have a note of what all was asked and what all has been answered for. So that you know that, okay, this was something which inadvertently I made a wrong statement, or I should not have said it like this, I should have said it like this. Go back, write an email, write a letter to the officers and put it on record that this was something which mistakenly I said this, but this is how it should be read. Summons and all, sometimes we have seen they say that, they immediately ask you in the wee hours that come and give the statement. People would say that you have not given me the summon. Officers are very smart. They immediately issue you the summon. So don't get into that situation. But yes, you ask that, you give us the summon, we'll come. And if you look into the summon procedures and the instructions and guidelines, summons again, they have to be issued and the taxpayers have to be called during the business hours. They have the right to, ask the time to attend. If there are any medical reasons, they can always say that I cannot come at this point of time, I'll come at some point of time. But yes, these are certain things which, at ground level are very different from what is being instructed to the officers. And like lastly, I said, state the truth and nothing else. You will always be in a beneficial position if you give the correct facts. And wherever there is any error has happened, better to pay and discharge your liabilities unless until you have a legal reason for, taking such a stand. Thank you so much. I think we'll take the question answer session at the end.